well, Doc, let's talk about Get Back. Or more, I don't know. In my opinion, more, let's talk about the breakup of the Beatles. We both watched it. You're halfway through it, and I've watched the whole thing.
I like how I'm going to do I'm going to do a show on something I'm only half watched.
Yeah, but we all...
It's like I didn't study for a test.
No, but like we all knew like what happened.
We do know what happens.
So, the whole idea about the... Well, originally there was the Let It Be movie.
Right.
That came out a long, long time ago. The idea about Let It Be was supposed to be, let's film the Beatles going in, writing new songs, recording them, and then performing them live.
But what they didn't know was the Beatles were on their last legs.
Yeah.
They didn't realize walking into what they were walking into. They thought they were going to, we're going to watch the Beatles make Abbey Road. And what they didn't realize is 4 individuals that were pretty much done with each other for the time being.
Yeah, I think.
And I think that's what, so far, I've seen captured in the Get Back documentary. What I find charming about that documentary, that is what it's like when your band is on the verge of a breakup. That is what it's like when there is literally no creative juice and everybody's just kind of done.
Yep.
Like, I can't imagine what being a Beatle what kind of effect that would have on your psyche. That period, everything they went through that we've talked about numerous times, from the Liverpool days, the recordings, I can't imagine what that would do to you. But it's literally like, yeah, it's easy for me to say, I would stay on that train until it crashed into a wall. And they're all like, no, we want to go on and do other things. I don't know, but that's what I find very charming about it, is that you are watching each individual, and that's what it's like when everybody's kind of just done with one another.
It kind of, well, you know how they always, reality television. Yeah. And the idea is like, you're supposed to be getting a slice of reality. When I went through the documentary Get Back, well, essentially, what I was saying is like, Let It Be was a movie that was made, and it's a bleak ride, to be honest.
Not a fun watch.
Not a fun watch.
Is it like the Requiem?
Requiem for a Dream is more
music documentaries.
That's more pleasurable than that. So I guess Peter Jackson went through like hours and hours. He had like hours and hours of all this raw footage of them, and he's like, I'm gonna expand on it. And I think his intention was to like, no, they weren't like, no, look at, they're having a good time, they're writing songs, they're doing it. He wanted to put on at least give a more positive light to this particular situation. And you get, I think with the 3 parts, it almost spans like almost like 7.5 hours. And a lot of it, seriously, Doc, the first one is just them noodling.
It's them noodling,
messing around.
That's the majority of what I've watched, and that's all I've seen so far. Is they're out of ideas, except for like Paul. He's got great ideas.
Yep.
And I kind of feel bad for Paul, because I know what it's like when I've never enjoyed that thing where you write a song and then you show it to your band. I've never enjoyed that. I enjoy it when I have the genesis in my mind and it materializes over. There's been songs I've written that have materialized over years. Just started as something me humming. And then there's that magic moment when I'm on that couch and I finish it, and I have that fucking Purple Rain moment in my mind where I'm gonna play this live, and I'm gonna make a motherfucker cry. This is gonna be this beautiful thing. But that's when that beauty ends, is on that couch with that song. Because then you got to go to your band and go, hey guys, I got this great idea. Here it is. And then you sing it and you play it for them, and they're trying to figure it out. You just see that 1,000-yard stare in one of the bandmates' eyes who's not into it. It's just like, okay,
like,
there's this, there's that.
What key's it in? You just described George Harrison's role in this, because that's what George Harrison's doing. Like, he's like, hey guys, I have some songs. And like, you can kind of tell that, like, John and Paul are sort of like humoring them, like, oh yeah, let's see what you got.
Yeah.
And what I've learned, this is something I've learned about the Beatles. It's like, you don't want to think about that. What I was gonna say is, like, originally when I went through this, I'm like, I don't know if I like this. But the more I think about it, I think I do love it, because it gives you an honest view into these guys. They are people, and it gives you an honest view on, like, here it is coming apart. And being musicians ourselves, you see the different roles.
Yeah. Because
here's how it is. This is what I noticed right off the bat. Paul McCartney obviously cares.
Yeah.
He's obviously the one guy that, like, I want to still do this. I want to still make music. George Harrison wants to contribute.
He wants to contribute.
But it's been so long in this Beatles thing, bro. He tries to bring music, and Paul and John are like, yeah, great, awesome. And he's at the point where, like, you know, I think at this point, I think he even mentioned about, like, hey, we should do solo albums. And George is like, just so I could put an album out of my own music, right?
That would have been awesome if they did what Kiss did.
It would have failed. But and then you get John Lennon, and if you
he's in Yoko Ono land.
Well, we'll talk about that. But the thing I noticed about John Lennon is, like, he's like joking around a lot. He's, like, kind of always not being serious, and I get the impression from that it's like he just doesn't care.
Yeah.
So he's just, all right, I don't care, so I'm just gonna be in it.
He just noodles around, and, like, you know.
But I think the tell, though, is Ringo Starr.
Oh God. Because
Ringo Starr is usually, like, the funny guy.
And he's exhausted through that whole thing.
He doesn't say anything in the whole thing.
He's tired.
When you see Ringo
They're
Starr,
all wrapped up in their own insanity. It's like you got Paul still trying to hold the thing together. That's what I noticed. Paul's still there. He's got the ideas. And I think John Lennon, you know, he's got his idea. And then, of course, you got George Harrison. He's got ideas too, but he knows that they're just going to be, it's going to be all for naught. But they're all wrapped up in their own little thing. You got John Lennon and, I've watched so many Beatles documentaries, but I never noticed how much of a shadow Yoko is.
Yeah.
Now I get it. She is fucking there the whole time, like, there. And that's got to be annoying. George Harrison's got his fucking groupies that are just sitting there with their shaved heads, and it's like, yama, 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 yama. That's got to be annoying to have, you know, that kind of energy in the mix. And then you got Ringo Starr. You can tell he's usually the funny guy goofing around. He yawns through the whole thing.
Yeah, he's sitting there and not saying a word.
And then you got to add the bigness of the Beatles, which is this camera crew, and they're filming a documentary. The thing is, when you write those songs, you don't have all that energy going on. You don't have girlfriend energy. You don't have groupie.
Nope.
You don't have that. You're in your own little thing, and I think that could have contributed a lot to why it seemed very. I mean, there wasn't a lot of rock and rolling going on. Quite frankly, you know, with Let It Be album, there's not a lot of songs on there that I'm like, woo, you know.
No.
I like Don't Let Me Down.
There's a lot of sad songs.
It's definitely, there's a lot of sad songs, like The Long and Winding Road. That song makes me sad.
Yeah.
That's like the song I hear when my alarm goes off and I have to go to work.
One thing I've learned about, you know, watching this is the whole thing about egos. Rock and roll stars and egos. And the thing is, Paul and John had egos.
How could you not?
Exactly. How could you not when you are literally Paul McCartney and John Lennon? And I think I love the Beatles. We both love the Beatles. But you can tell in their career when, like, everything, all the credits is like Lennon McCartney. Mm-hmm. But you get to the point, and I'm going to say, like, the White Album, and even before that, where, like, there's a John Lennon song. Obviously, John Lennon wrote this song. This is a song Paul McCartney wrote. Where obviously there was a point where, like, they wrote songs as a band.
Yeah.
And I get the impression that, like, I honestly think, like, maybe what could have saved the Beatles is maybe if they actually went off and did solo albums and then come back.
Well, I'm sure that they would have done that, but John Lennon got assassinated.
That's 1980, dude.
No,
they
probably needed 10 years to be away from each other.
You think so?
Oh, God. When
you
you're
don't, you
done,
don't think a couple years?
You're done. You know, Jesus Christ. Didn't J-Lo and Ben Affleck get back together?
Yeah.
They took about 15 years off, but now they're going to be back. But no, totally. If John Lennon would have survived, there would have been a Beatles reunion. There totally would have been a Beatles reunion.
Yeah.
But I think they needed that. I mean, it's like I said, I can't even fathom the effect being in the Beatles through 1962 to 1970. That's 8 years. That's nothing. Think of everything they did in that 8 years.
That's a lot.
And before. It's insanity.
When you really...
And they were never not around each other. That's another thing. When you are around people all the time. Like, I was in the Navy. You had to work all day with somebody, and then you had to go sleep in the same place and have your nighttime routine. When you're around motherfuckers all the time, you're like, ah!
Yeah.
If I don't see you for 10 years, it'll be 10 years too soon. So I think that's what the 70s were for all of them. They were just like, I'm done with you guys. I love you. I love you.
Yeah.
But they needed that break to do their own thing.
So
that's what
let's talk about the Yoko in the room. So, you know, there's a So
I'm stealing that for the rest of my life.
So obviously there's the thing that, you know, there's the idea that, like, Yoko Ono broke up the Beatles. And she didn't break them up.
No.
But for like a long time I was in that camp.
Yeah.
You know.
She didn't break.
But here's the thing. That being said, the scenario would have to be like, hey, the Beatles are totally fine. They're all getting along. And then all of a sudden, here comes Yoko, and it wrecks everything. And that isn't the case. There's actually a documentary that this one guy made on YouTube. It's like, did Yoko break up the Beatles? And this guy makes he makes a great point. He makes a lot of great points. You know, they stopped touring in like '66.
Oh yeah, they couldn't.
And
they couldn't hear themselves.
And here's the thing: like, even at that point, like, John and George were like already like kind of checking out, because they're like, we're tired of this.
Yeah,
we're tired of this. And then, like, all right, well, we're gonna make music in the studio. And then I saw some interview footage where George Harrison was like, he didn't really enjoy recording Sgt. Pepper's, because it was all that. It was because now they're doing overdubs now.
Right.
All right, you're coming in and you're gonna do the drums today. You're gonna come in and do the bass tomorrow. So, like,
it was innovative, and I could tell it probably took him out of what he first fell in love with the Beatles.
Yeah,
they were a skiffle band. They played in the cavern. They played together. Yeah. They were always playing together. When they first started recording albums, they were probably recording around like one microphone. You know, they were all together. And then they just happened to be at a time when all this multi-tracking innovation was happening. George Martin, and they were doing amazing stuff. It was just this amazing time. For him, it was probably like, this doesn't feel like I'm in a band.
So how would you compare the music on Let It Be to the rest of the Beatles?
It's tired. It's like, you know, it's just like, Get Back. Okay, yeah, it's groovy. But quite frankly, with those songs, they always sound like something I'd hear in a thrift store.
Yeah.
It's just not that. It's just that it's not there. It's not an Abbey Road. It's not.
Some of the, I'll be honest with you, like,
Revolver.
They show, like, in the movie, they show them, like, putting together these songs. And, like, some of the songs just feel disjointed still.
Well, I mean, what do you do? I mean,
am I like,
you don't have like this never-ending supply of this, like, where every idea you get's going to be a home run. I mean, we've talked about this. I mean, every artist, you know, has a, you know, first few albums, or they could go, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 albums. And it's just home run after home run. I mean, you just love it, love it, love it. But as they continue to be, you know, go on their journey, you know, it might get down to about 5 songs that you liked on this album. And then as they continue on, they might have 2. Then there might be a what the fuck was that album? Like, you're like, David Bowie's Low.
Yeah. if the Beatles would have continued, they would have put out they would have put out their version of Low. And that's the thing that I like about, that I do admire about Get Back, is you're seeing that. It's not like the Beatles were fine before this, then they went and did this and they broke up. You're watching the very end of this band.
Yeah, it's like Metallica's some kind of monster.
It's almost like some kind of it's like almost like Metallica took notes off of these guys.
Because that's what it is, and you get the real raw emotion. There's a part when Paul McCartney is like sitting there going, "And then there were two."
Yeah,
and then it just focuses on him. The director of photography knew what he was doing. That was a very beautiful moment. I mean, it was sad, but
there's a part where
Paul McCartney's like sitting there and it's just silent, and he's like, "And then there were two," because he's realizing this is the end of this. This has been his life up until now, and he's realizing this is the end. And he doesn't say any words. He's just sitting there. His eyes get glassy, and you're just like, that shit's real. You know, the conversations they have with one another. You know, they hid microphones in the flower pots or whatever. But yeah, that's like, and what I like about the Beatles, they're so proper. You could tell they're pissed, but they never like lose their temper.
Yep.
They're really trying. They never ever like knock shit over, or
Yeah, no one's getting in anyone's face.
They don't kick in the kick drum. You know, there's always they're very proper with one another, but you could tell they're getting on each other's nerves.
Yeah, and then again, the whole bringing back the whole Yoko thing is just like, she didn't break up the band, but she didn't. You can tell that she didn't.
She brought a weird energy.
She didn't help the situation.
No, I mean, it was like I said.
Because that's
them when they're obviously vulnerable.
They talk about it. They talk about it in the thing, and they're like, well, what are we gonna? Well, I think Paul said it. He's like, kind of like, well, if John is gonna pick between us and her, he's gonna pick her.
Right.
And it's like, who's gonna tell John Lennon? Who's gonna tell John Lennon, hey man, don't bring your girlfriend to band practice?
But he did bring up a good point, and something that the Beatles didn't have at the time.
What's that?
They didn't have anybody like control it. They didn't have an Epstein, like saying.
They say that's when Brian Epstein died. That was kind of the beginning of the end.
They didn't have somebody sitting there going, "Hey, keep the girlfriends at home."
Yep.
Positive attitudes. This is what we're going to do. And that's all there is to it. No, they didn't have that. They were kind of left to their own devices. Like Paul says, he's like, we're kind of left alone here at holiday camp.
Yeah.
And that's what, you kind of need somebody cracking the whip, because people will flounder around, especially if you get drugs and shit involved.
Well, John Lennon was doing heroin.
Oh, God, yeah.
They were doing heroin.
Once you add that to the mix, I mean,
you throw that into the
everybody
mix.
then gets real lost in their own little worlds. It's not only has Yoko Ono over here, he's got heroin over here too. He's like freaking doubling up, going, hey.
Yeah, and you got to think it's like, as far as John Lennon's concerned, like you honestly, I think even the thought would come into his mind, like, I wonder if the guys would be cool with me bringing my girlfriend to band practice. I bet you that thought didn't even cross his mind.
He just did it
because it's not even there. Yeah. And then you, again, getting back to the egos, you have to think that it's like, well, I'm fucking John Lennon. I could do whatever the hell I want.
Yeah.
And I honestly get the impression, maybe except for Paul, and this is including Ringo, that I got the impression watching that like, at any moment, any one of those guys could just say, I'm done.
Yeah.
George did it.
He did.
And they have to talk him back. But I got the impression that, like, at any minute you could see, like, John Lennon being like, yeah, I'm done with this.
How many times have you done a show with me and you're like, this is the last one?
Every one of them. When they do the rooftop concert performance.
Mm-hmm.
It truly is. It's truly bittersweet.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way to end it, because that was the final Beatles performance.
And here's the thing, like, when I was watching it, it actually kind of hit me really, really hard. Because you're like, exactly what you just got done saying. This is the final Beatles performance. And then it just made me think, like, oh my God. Could you imagine, like, if the Beatles, because they were talking about playing again.
Yeah.
Before they, obviously they broke up. And I'm just thinking, like, oh my God, imagine seeing that Beatles play live.
Yeah, I mean that's something. We'll
Hey, here's some songs off the White Album. Here's
Think of the weight of that. The weight of that. I mean, this is music that was made before you and I were born.
Yeah, and it makes me think. It makes me think like, oh my God, could you imagine if they toured Sgt. Pepper's? Like I'm thinking like home. I'm like getting chills thinking about imagining them coming out and touring with Sgt. Pepper's, and they come out with dressed up. My main takeaway from like after watching Get Back is just sort of like it's like watching a reality. It kind of reminds me of like the girl that got away. But the girl you never even had a chance with.
That's the girl you never even had a chance with.
And that's the Beatles actually playing live after 1966.
That's like me having a crush on Sophia Loren. Never had a chance with her, and she was way, way before my time.
This is the thing that I realize. Like we're talking about the long and winding road.
Sad.
It's a sad song, but when I hear that song sounds like a Paul McCartney solo song to me.
Well, yeah,
which is interesting because Let It Be...
It's like his November Rain.
Let It Be sounds like a Beatles song to me.
Yeah.
But Long and Winding Road sounds like a Paul McCartney solo song to me.
Yeah.
Across the Universe sounds like a John Lennon solo song to me. That doesn't sound like a Beatles song to me. And Get It Back...
Get It Back
is a perfect analogy of like the band, because it's like in the Beatles' career, if Let It Be, that's the hit.
Yeah,
that's the big one. That's the song. That's the top. That's the top of the heap when it comes to Let It Be.
Yep, that's it.
And that would have been.
And after that song,
that would have been on. If that was on the White Album, it would have been on album side 2 of the White Album,
disc 2,
disc 3. And
so basically, what you're saying is like they should have done Let It Be, and then they should have just let it be.
Yeah.
No more songs. They should have just released Let It Be, and then they should have just let it be.
Yeah. Can't end it any other better way than that.